Listen, I did film and television studies at university for 3 years. I spent hours reading countless books and articles on subjects spanning from film all the way to television. Not a single one mentioned Hugh Grant once.
I achieved the hardest qualification across any university or college ever, a 2-1 in history. Let me tell you, the only thing that I learned was that we, as a society, have a history of denying and neglecting Hugh Grant's artistic and cultural relevance, not just in this country, but in the entire world.
I met Oscar at a Hugh Grant-themed event I put on at the Students' Union.
It felt as though Diggory and I were the only ones there, and we agreed that there was a Hugh Grant-shaped hole in academia.
We decided to put it right ourselves. We want to show people that he's an icon in acting.
We want to show people he's more than just a bumbling posh guy.
I'm Diggory Waite.
And I'm Oscar Beardmore Gray. And this is...
Taking Hugh for Granted.
Hello and welcome to Taking Hugh for Granted, the podcast in which two Hugh Grant enthusiasts watch every single film starring Hugh Grant in the attempt to answer the simple question: is this film taking Hugh for granted? Is this film good on its own, or does it rely on the bumbling Brits for its acclaim? I'm Diggory Waite, and I'm joined as always by my colleague and fellow Hugh Grant obsessive, Oscar Beardmore Gray. Oscar, how the bloody hell are you doing today, mate?
I'm doing very well, Diggs. I'm fresh off the back of a half marathon on the weekend, so I'm resting up. But
was it this weekend?
Yeah, I smashed it this weekend.
Mate, congratulations. Well done. How was it?
It wasn't bad, actually. I mean, I'm kind of amazed with myself to some degree because I am not the kind of person who's ever enjoyed long distance running at all. But, you know, COVID does strange things to you, and,
Certainly
you know,
does.
Not being able to see many people the last few months. So I was like, I got to get out there and, you know, get running. I was that person in January who got up when it was dark. I had a head torch on my head.
Wow.
I had the bands on my arms, the reflective bands. No, it's just, you know, it was cold. It was hardcore. But yeah, I managed to run it this weekend. So yeah.
Congrats.
Cheers, mate.
Congrats. So what's the deal from here though? I mean, have you got the flavour for it now? Because I know we have mutual friends who have done a bit of running, and they've done similar stuff to you, and they're like, and now they can't stop.
A little bit, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, shout out to our friend Tom Meddings, who I have to say, I don't think any of us expected him to be turn into a running fanatic. I think he was bet by someone that he couldn't do a marathon, and that was enough for him to be like, I'm going to do one. And he ran around Fulham 8 times to do a self-guided marathon in August. A big shout out to Tom, who's also been he's been a big supporter of mine during the last few weeks. But yeah, I don't know. Like now I feel like I'm at kind of peak fitness, and if I stop doing it, I'll never be able to get up to these heights again. So maybe I should just carry on. But like, I'm kind of enjoying the idea of not running this week at least, you know, because it's been it's been a few early mornings and stuff. So might take the week off and see how it goes. But talking of running, I mean, Diggs, I've heard that you're also on the running hype. You're a Strava man.
Well, I'm on Strava. I'm famous on Strava actually. I am what actually that same man Tom Meddings likes to call. He calls me the 2.4 specialist. I have my distance, which is 2.4 kilometers, and I run it. You know, probably the fastest anyone's ever run it. It only takes me 2 hours, and I just do that every morning. It takes I'm getting up early. I've got the head torch on. 2 hours, 2.4 kilometers. Not bad. You know, so that's how I play it.
Well, mate, if you smash 2.4 kilometers every day, you know, that's going to improve your headspace, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tanked, but you know, it's something. Let's talk about Hugh Grant. The closest we've got so far is to mentioning Fulham. So let's have a synopsis of the film we'll be talking about today. I'm Still Here in 2010. Let's have a synopsis from Synopsis Simon.
I'm Still Here, directed by Casey Affleck and released in 2010. In 2008, while rehearsing for a charity event, actor Joaquin Phoenix tells onlookers that he's quitting acting to pursue a career in rap music. Over the next year, Casey Affleck documents Phoenix write, rehearse, and perform to an audience. How Hugh Grant comes into that, I'm not sure.
Love that.
wonderful there from Synopsis Simon. Oscar, are you any the wiser as to how Hugh Grant fits into this film?
Not really, Diggs, to be honest, and maybe we should just be straight up. He doesn't really fit into this film, does he?
Not at all. I knew going into it he would barely feature. I just knew because I looked at the film, I looked at it on IMDb when we were like, totting up, making lists of what films we had to watch and stuff. I knew that he wouldn't really be in it. I thought he would be a fleeting cameo at best, much like some of the other amazing names in this. Jack Nicholson's in this, Danny DeVito's in this. There's some, but they're actually in it and they're in the flesh and they're there only for a bit. Ben Stiller's in it for quite a while, and I thought maybe that would be the best we could hope for Hugh. It's even less than that. It's a picture of him and someone talking about him in a broadcast. So that is what we're dealing with here. That is what we're trying to review. But what do you think about IMDb putting this down as one of his acting roles?
It is strange, isn't it? Because we talked just before we came on air that he on Hugh Grant's Wikipedia filmography page, this film is not credited. He is not credited in the credits of the film, but on IMDb he does have a credit as himself, along with a string of other actors. There's probably about 10 to 15 different big names there. If I was Hugh, to be honest, wouldn't want to have my name associated with this film.
Yeah, exactly. It is bizarre. I think, and to be honest, I was thinking, how can we get his name? How can we get that scratched off IMDb? I think someone needs to go in there, if anyone has a pro account, and try and change this, because it's really bizarre. Because there's other actors who in the film who are in it. They have speaking roles, but they're not credited. But oddly, they are. It says on IMDb, the way that it's structured, it says like that, they're there as themselves and blah blah. But Hugh Grant is playing Hugh Grant. It's like an acting role rather than that, like he is just himself as an appearance. Because IMDb has a space for that. IMDb says, when he goes on a late night talk show, there's a different whole thing for that, which is like Hugh Grant as himself. And there's like 400, 500 credits on there. Understand, because he's done loads of press and stuff. That's where this should go.
And I'm sure that also, presumably when you get a credit, there should be some kind of consent over that. I don't think he probably was asked about the fact that he was going to appear in this film. And to be honest, the 10 seconds basically he is in this film, he's being taken the piss out of. That's not new, but to have it as an acting credit does seem off, I think.
Exactly. Well, and maybe we shouldn't beat around the bush anymore. It's in the film, because the film is, as you've heard from Synopsis Simon, Casey Affleck, a now Oscar-winning actor, documenting the breakdown of another Oscar-winning actor, Joaquin Phoenix, it's all a bit of a scam, a bit of a joke, a bit of a mockumentary. Maybe we'll talk about that in a bit, but. Within that, they're using lots of fan footage and lots of press stuff of people talking about breakdowns of other actors and stuff, and they reference Hugh Grant's sex scandal of the 90s, and that's where. And so it has his mugshot when he was arrested. Hugh Grant's mugshot. It's there for, like you say, 10 seconds. The reference is that short, and he's given it an acting credit for an IMDb. So it's bizarre, and like you say, wouldn't be something that you wanted to be associated with. Probably wasn't something he was asked about, and yet here we are. And I feel like because we sort of set the precedent to do his films as credited on IMDb, but maybe we should change that to Wiki from now on. Maybe Wiki's the way to go.
Maybe, but at the same time, I feel like the chance to talk about a film as wacky as this one is a sort of fun one to talk about, I think. And despite Hugh probably not wanting a credit in this, I think it's a good one to cover.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's do that.
Well, you're listening to Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted on the radio. Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted. Oh, the podcast show.
So, Oscar, let's talk about the film properly. I I am so interested to hear what you made of it, because I feel like my thoughts and feelings and vibes watching the film was like a broken Richter scale going up and down, like rumbling away. Like it was all over the place. Where did you 10 minutes into the film, 20 minutes into the film, where did you find yourself? And did that change, or what were your initial reactions?
It's an interesting one, like the way you talk about that, a kind of a dial going back and forth.
Yeah.
I started the film when I didn't know anything about it. I didn't do any research beforehand, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? Because it's like a home movie. It's a really it's quite poor quality. You have no idea what's going on, and I have to say, for the first sort of hour, I was like, this is crap. And then I think the second half of the movie, I kind of got more of the sense of what the purpose of the film is meant to be. It's, as we'll talk more about it, it's basically kind of a mockumentary, taking the piss out of sort of Hollywood celebrity culture and having a nervous breakdown in Hollywood. And Joaquin Phoenix sort of has this role as a drug addict, Hollywood crazy man, basically, and he fools David Letterman by going on his show, wearing sort of dark glasses,
all weird.
and just being really strange. I watched a review of this, and something struck me, which I think is true, is that it was kind of weirdly watchable in places.
I completely agree. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
There were some moments, for example. So Joaquin Phoenix he's trying to be a rapper, and he is a terrible rapper. He's like if I try to be a rapper.
He's like the D-Dog. Let's be honest.
No,
he's like,
don't even compare yourself, Diggs. You're way better than him.
Well, for those that don't know, my alter ego is the D-Dog. I am a rapper. Check me out. But it felt very... So that's why I thought it would be interesting for us to talk about this as well. But sorry, do go on.
Well, there's some moments where it does capture this surrealness, basically, of where just because Joaquin Phoenix is a famous person, he can basically almost fool everyone in Hollywood by pretending that he's going to be a rapper. And he's kind of given a wide berth because he's famous, and they're like, all right, yeah, okay, you can have a go at being a rapper despite you're terrible. And he does some really terrible things in this film. Someone does a dump on him, on his face. He orders prostitutes. He's on stage rapping, and then he beats someone up in the crowd. But whilst a lot of the things I felt were like borderline inappropriate, like I said, it was weirdly watchable in some places.
It was completely bizarre. I mean, I remember 20 minutes into the film, I remember I can't remember exactly what bit it was, but I remember laughing and really laughing and thinking, I got it. I get it. I find it took me about 20 minutes for the film to marinate enough that I had sunk into the vibe. I realized what was going on. Sort of, I was like, okay, it's supposed to be funny. It's a bit weird, but I get it. And then that probably chopped and changed again. And then I'd say actually for me, the second half of the film, I had then sunk back into my chair and my arms were folded, and I was a bit like, I don't like this at all.
I don't know where I need a producer who can fucking explode the fucking eggshell away and let the album start its life.
So, Dre.
I
mean, he's like one of the best out there.
Dude, I'm saying if Dre's gonna be into it.
Okay.
But then it's just a Dre album. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like,
what about Rick Rubin?
So the bad news is Rick Rubin and Dr. Dre are both booked.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but the good news is that it looks like P. Diddy might be available.
Oh, no way.
So I got to call into his people right now, but I just wanted to touch base before I went any further.
One bit that's brilliant is, he's trying to foster and make this rap career. And so he's trying to ring all these producers like Dr. Dre and who else is? Oh yeah, Rick Rubin, who both say that they're busy. And and then eventually P Diddy is going to come on, and it's great, and he's basically, he literally flies around the country chasing him to try and get this meeting with him, and he keeps being busy and stuff, and eventually they finally track him down. They're going to meet P Diddy, and it's just amazing like clip when you realize, you know, it's proper mockumentary style where they're walking up to his hotel room and they're like, fuck, what do I call P Diddy? I haven't even thought about this yet. We've been trying so hard to find him. Do I call him P? Do I call him Diddy? Do I call him P Diddy? Do I call him Sean Combs? What the fuck do I call him? And it's really, really funny. And that bit, like, then I in those moments you feel a lot more comfortable, and they're really funny. But there's other moments, such as when he has this strange British accomplice who I thought at one point I thought he would be attached to Hugh Grant. I thought there would be some sort of like British consortium, you know. He has this strange guy who's with him, and who is also, I think, a reformed addict of some sort, who's somehow friends with Joaquin Phoenix, and they're making music together, which, as you know, is, as we've said, is crap. And he's yelling at him, and he's like doing cocaine on the table and spinning it up, and he's like, and you can't get in this, and he keeps telling him he's going to shit on his face. But the thing is, I'm laughing because it's so far-fetched, but then obviously eventually that guy does get his own back and actually poos on Joaquin Phoenix's face. But these are moments where they're so shocking and horrifying. It feels like you're watching a Jackass film, but the Jackass films are funny, and this film is just disturbing and awful. Look out the window. Look out the window. Look out the window. It's Hugh Grant in a Pret.
This is something else I want to move on to, Dave. I want to ask you kind of how much of this was like art, which
this is a great question.
Like people in cinema would argue this is art, and how much of this is kind of like a narcissistic, egotistical project that Joaquin Phoenix and Casey Affleck put together.
That is a great question, and it reminds me oddly of another guy in Hollywood, James Franco, who went to film school, and I remember him talking about one of his films that he made for film school, which was he put the camera in his toilet, and he did a poo, and he reversed a poo entering his bum and slowed it down, and it was about 10 minutes long of a poo going inside someone. And they kicked him off they either kicked him off the course or he got a terrible, thing. And he was like, but it's art, it's provocative. That is not art, and neither is this film. You know, like it's like, it really did feel like Casey Affleck and Joaquin Phoenix wanted to pull a prank on Hollywood. And after 2008, Joaquin had, for some reason, many people, there's some theories, people think that Joaquin Phoenix actually had a breakdown, and this was his brother-in-law trying to help him out. So they sort of made a film, and they messed with Hollywood, and everyone said, "Oh, Joaquin Phoenix is retiring, and he's now going to be a rapper, and we're going to make a film to be like, oh, don't worry, guys, it was all a joke." But actually, the jokes don't land. They're not very funny. So if it is a joke, it's not a very funny one. It's a bit weird, and it's not. It's the art is completely lost, I think.
Well, one thing I think, on the one hand, I think that it is impressive in some regard that he basically slipped into an alter ego or a different character for a year. It seemed like, or a year and a half. 2
years, I think.
Like 2 years, he was playing up this basically like overweight. He looked. So if you've seen the Hangover, he looks like Alan from the Hangover. He's got like a big beard.
Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, he's got a big beard. He looks hungover the whole time, and he looks terrible. Because like Joaquin Phoenix, like back in the day, or even now, he's a sharp looking guy, like in Gladiator and things like that.
We think about him in Joker, he's skeletal, he's that thin.
Yeah, so in this film he's like overweight and stuff. So to some degree, if you viewed this as art, he has kind of like pulled the wool over people's eyes a bit. Like I mean that appearance on David Letterman, I think it is worth talking about it briefly. Like he basically comes on and David Letterman doesn't know anything about him, and he just doesn't say anything, and he like looks into the audience kind of like ashen face.
Good to see you. Thank you very much for being on the program again. It's been 3 years since the last time you were on the show, and I will just say right off the top here, you look different than I remember you. You've got a nice beard going, and
oh yeah, thank you.
How is that, the beard?
In what way?
Well, is it comfortable? Is it itchy? Is it? Are you pleased with it?
I'm okay with it, but now you're making me feel weird about it.
I'm sorry, I'm making you feel weird about it?
Is there something wrong?
I can't be the first one to make you feel weird about it.
No, I guess not.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Is it you do a lot of this?
That's just a nervous tick, I think.
Oh, just a nervous tick.
Well, apparently he pissed off because the last film he did before this whole thing happened was I think Two Lovers
with Gwyneth Paltrow.
With Gwyneth Paltrow, yeah. And apparently the people who made that film were really pissed off because Joaquin Phoenix, one of the lead actors in the film, didn't help promote it and when he did help promote it, he was playing this character, this like distant, sullen, weird guy who also just wanted to talk about the rap career that he's gonna do. So the film was a box office failure, despite it being very, very successful with critics, and they think partly that's down to Joaquin Phoenix not promoting the film properly.
I saw this. I saw this movie the other night. Tremendous. What a tremendous film. You and who else is in it? What's her name? Beautiful, lovely.
Mm.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow. Vanessa Shaw.
Very nice movie. And you don't see movies like this much anymore, and I was so gratified to see it. And you were terrific in the film. I really enjoyed your work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Diggs, sadly, once again, we are going to have to bring up the elephant in the room here, which is that this film was marred by allegations of sexual assault against Joaquin Phoenix and Casey Affleck. Now, some people have suggested that these allegations were part of the PR spin of the film, part of the fun of the film, which was taking the piss out of the problem of sexual assault and harassment in Hollywood. But most people, and I agree, think that is a ridiculous argument. Like, no one, even if you're making a mockumentary, wants to have their film marred of that kind of allegation. And to be honest, it's not surprising, these allegations, because you look at the conduct in this film, and it is inappropriate at times, and they seem to cross that gray zone a lot of the time.
Oh, massively. I mean, all you have to do is watch the film, and if the film is a reflection of the cast and crew, and the way that it's comes across, that was chaotic. And I think he even said, there was a level of unprofessionalism on the set, if you can even call them sets on this film, that was fostered and allowed to go on. I mean, those two allegations were settled outside of court for a total sum out of the two of them of $4.25 million. So it's no small thing here. And this all cropped up again when Casey Affleck was nominated for the Oscar for the film Manchester by the Sea, which I think he eventually won. And then he was due to present the Best Actress Award, I think, at the 2018 Oscars, and pulled out of presenting that in the whole wake of Me Too and stuff. It's a dark stain on this movie. But what pisses me off about this particular thing is, it's yet another shady fucking director that it says on IMDb that Hugh Grant has worked with. We have Roman Polanski, we have Woody Allen, and now we've fucking got Casey Affleck as well. And that's why I just want to at least take this one off, because it just doesn't count. It doesn't count if you just put up a picture of him and talk about him. That does not count.
Yeah, I mean, the Afflecks, I have to say, they're not. It's unbelievable that both brothers, Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck, both have a seriously shady side to them. And it seems to be a run in the family thing. It'll be interesting to where do you think? I'm not a Joaquin Phoenix expert, and you probably know him more than I do, being a big Batman fan and stuff like that. I mean, it's hard to know where this really fits in his career, because he's got a great reputation. He's got a serious reputation as an actor, like he's a proper actor. And I just wonder whether he'll look back at this as a part of his career which he kind of regrets, really, because, like you said, there were rumors about him having an actual breakdown. And watching it, you do wonder whether while he was sort of, there was a certain amount of piss taking around the fact that he was having a breakdown, whether there was actually something not quite right with him at that point in time, because it's a really strange thing to have done.
It's really strange, but that's what, yeah, exactly. But I think in some ways, they just want to they just want to, I don't know, own it. I mean, I don't know what effect this has. I think Hugh Grant said it best at one point. He talked about his own scandal in 1995 and said, Hollywood don't care. Hollywood don't care about this sort of stuff. If you make money, they'll keep hiring you. And Hugh Grant's films made money. And so, you thought that might be, by a lot of people at the time thought this will be the end of Hugh Grant. It absolutely wasn't. That's when we started hearing about him from 1994 and 1925 onwards. And I think that the same is the case here. Like, does anyone really know about this film? No. Does anyone really care? No. Joaquin Phoenix went back to acting, did a few more cool roles, has won an Oscar, gave the weirdest Oscar speech ever where he didn't quite pick, he like talked about lots of different injustices in the world, talked a little bit about sexism here, talked about saving the planet and veganism and stuff there, didn't really pick an issue, then just sort of complained about everything in a sullen, pissed off way and then walked off, which was really bizarre. And then you had you had our wonderful Renee Zellweger, obviously, who we all love in this parish, and then she came on afterwards and she won the Best Actress and she was like, I just love it, I'm so thank you so much. It was completely night and day between the two of them. But I don't know. I mean, yeah. So that's the thing. Like, will it have an effect? No. But what I do find interesting about Joaquin is like this enigma. He mentioned at the beginning of the film. He's like,
I'm just fucking like stuck in this ridiculous like self-imposed fucking prison of characterization, and it happened to me young. It's like the chicken or the egg. I don't know what came first, whether they said that I was emotional and intense and complicated, or whether I was truly complicated and intense, and then they responded to it. Then, like, once they responded to it, then I responded to what they were saying. And, yeah, I utilized it in some ways, and I'm embarrassed about that, and that's what a lot of this is about. I mean, I guess that's why I agreed to do this documentary, is because I don't want to play the character of Joaquin anymore.
This film makes me just dislike him, maybe. Although I know lots of bad things happen in his life, but it's not a way to.
I mean, I think you're dead on there, Diggs. And that's, I guess, where I'm trying to kind of place this film is where I would like, and kind of going back to what that dial going back and forth. The first half of the film, I was like, I don't know much about this guy, but what I do know is that he's a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, actually, okay, well, now if I appreciate the art form this is as a kind of piss take of celebrity culture, then okay, maybe he's actually doing us a service. But at the end, I think I came back and was like, he's worked with a guy who's got a pretty poor reputation. He's made, in reality, a pretty terrible film that did really badly at the box office. He gave us a little bit of entertainment in terms of, fooling a few people, but in reality, it was a complete abject failure. And he should take Hugh Grant out of the credits.
Take Hugh Grant off the credits now.
Taking Hugh for granted. Taking Hugh for granted. Taking Hugh for granted. What did you think, lads? Were they taking Hugh for granted?
This film has been taking Hugh for granted, probably more than any of the others. I know it's some intern who's made some sort of mistake on IMDb that's gone unrectified for years. But this is honestly, for me, this might be the one that's taken him for granted the most. Don't put his name in the credits, or even on IMDb. I know it's IMDb, and it might be IMDb's fault. I don't care. To have Hugh Grant at all associated with this piece of shit is really grinding my gears, and I'm annoyed about it. So, do you know what? This film, more than others, has taken Hugh for granted. What do you think, Oscar? Has this film taken Hugh for granted?
I mean, Diggs, I can't. You're showing some serious passion there, and I love it. No one should be credited for a film they don't want to be credited for. Well, especially when you haven't bloody been in it. And
exactly.
And yeah, I think this truly has been taking Hugh for granted, and Hugh Grant doesn't want to be associated with this. It shouldn't ever be associated with him. And for that reason, I really think that this has been taking Hugh for granted, and is one that we will not want to talk about with Hugh's name ever again.
I hope that someone will listen to this in the future and be like, and look up Hugh Grant on his IMDb page and scroll down and be like, don't know what they're talking about. It was never here. I hope that's a world I want to live in. And when that world is sorted out, then we can sort out world peace. Do you know what I mean? It's only once you have that, you can have the rest. That's the utopia.
Sack off climate change. Let's get Hugh's name off IMDb for this film.
Because you know what? This is an actionable thing that just takes one person to do. They can just log on, click a few
Maybe we should
buttons.
write a letter. Should we write an email to them and ask?
Let's write a letter. Let's write an email. Let's get. I mean, you're a bit closer. Maybe we can pick it outside the IMDb.
Where is the headquarters? New York?
I don't know. Fuck it. Let's go. I don't know. Let's do it there. Wherever it is. Mate, yeah, who knows?
Well, we make a tangible difference to Hugh's career if we could do that. So that would be a good, maybe that'd be a good way of getting him on the pod as well.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be like, "Thanks, boys. Cheers." Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Oh God. Oh wow. Anyway, thank you so much. I mean, there is part of me that thinks that all we've done is just draw more attention to a film that we didn't want to draw attention to, but we need to put out content, guys. So sue us. Speaking of content, there's more that you can find on our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook. At Taking You for Granted on Facebook and Instagram, at Taking You on Twitter. You can email us, takingyouforgranted@gmail.com, if you want to add your name and your signature to our letter. Send us in a line or two of what you'd like us to say to these bastards, these fucking bastards, who need taking down from the inside out or outside in, either or, however they get taken down.
That, or we start a government petition where we get 100,000 signatures and they have to talk about it in Parliament.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if we wasted their time with that. Excellent. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. As I say, email us in, and we will see you in a couple of weeks for another Hugh Grant film, hopefully, that he's willingly signed up for and acted in.
That would be the dream, Diggs.
That's the dream. Bye,
all
everyone.
Right, folks. Bye.
Taking Hugh for Granted is produced, edited and presented by Diggory Waite and Oscar Beardmore Gray. The producers of Taking Hugh for Granted would like to state that this podcast is in no way associated with the actor Hugh John Mungo Grant, nor does it endorse his views or represent him in any way. Instead, by creating this podcast, Oscar and Diggory hope to celebrate Hugh's illustrious career, reliving his old classics and shedding light on some of his hidden gems. Hugh, if you're listening, we hope you approve.